In the previous session, we tried to understand what exactly is the database and what is the use of data persistence. And once we do a data persistence using any of these features, means any of the tools like Oracle or SQL or stuff, is basically any backend databases. We try to understand how we can go ahead and contact or establish a connection with the database, and then how we can send some queries to execute them on the database. So these are the stuff that we try to cover in the previous session. And the next thing, if you notice, we understood for contacting or for talking with the database from a Java application, we need a specific driver which the database has suggested. So since we are working on MySQL, we try to download a MySQL driver. So if you notice here in our project, in our class path, we try to add the MySQL driver, and then we try to get these features or invoke the class and try to connect to the database. And in this scenario, there are two important things that we did. First, created a method called getDBConnection inside a class, where this DB connection class reads all the properties from the dot properties file by using the help of the resource bundle. And once the resource bundle gets all the information from the properties file, we load all the properties, or we use all the properties to establish a connection, or nothing but we to create a connection object. Okay, so once we create a connection, from here we can use this object, this connection object, whatever we have created, to talk to the database. So the same example, or the simplest example that we saw, is like insert. Okay, created a class called insert, and in that class, all we did is the first thing is to get the connection which is being created in DB connection from Java class. Okay, now the next thing is, once we get the connection, we try to create a statement object. So from the statement object, we try to create, means this, we try to invoke or create this statement object, and then execute this query like insert into user values. So I have executed this. Okay, so now the next example that we see is, so we will be basically looking into some CRUD operations. So the next example that we try to see is we will try to read an existing data which is present in the database, which means whatever records that are already existing in the current user table, that we will try to load it into our Java class. Okay, and this is one of the most important things. Like, why? Because once we get the data from the backend, we need to understand how we can manage the data. Okay, in the meantime, let me create a simple class called Okay. So in the read operation, the first thing that we did here is like wrote a statement like a statement connection dot create statement, the same old statement which we saw in insert.java. And the next thing is statement dot execute query, and we wrote select star from user. So select means trying to select some data. Star means everything from user, which means select everything from the user table. This is the meaning of this query, which is trying to read all the records present in the database. Okay, not in the database, all the records present in the user table. Okay, now if you closely notice the statement of execute query output, let me show you once again. So statement dot execute query. The execute query is expecting a string as input, and the output is stored in a result set object. So when I say output is stored in a result set object, it means result set is something which can, means it's basically an interface. Okay, so it is something which can hold the incoming information for you. So as we just understood with a simple example, like if you're trying to buy some groceries or vegetables or whatever, you take a carry bag which can hold all that stuff, right? The same way, whatever records that you get from the database into this Java application will be stored in a result set. So the return type of this is a result set. So whatever output is being sent or given because of executing line number 18, that can be stored into a result set object. So let me create result set rs equal to, okay, control shift O. I'm trying to import the result set which is imported at line number 4. So the result set is nothing but it is an interface. Okay. Now the next thing. So when I say select start from user, all I try to do here is I try to go back. Means if you notice the specific record, specific table user, then this user table is trying to show all this information for us, like 4 records. So each record uniquely identifies a specific user's login credentials in our system, and there are 4 records. Now you might notice that there is a slight difference in the query that I have written in this MySQL prompt and in Eclipse. In Eclipse, I might have written something like this: select star from user, but in this prompt, it might be something like select star from Athena.user. Here, there are many schemas. So Athena is one schema. So if I want to connect to that schema, I can say select star from Athena.user, or I can do something. Use Athena controls. Then the next thing I can say is select star from user. Okay, see here, when I executed line number 5, I did not write Athena here. Why? Because at line number 4, I already explicitly mentioned, hey, whatever queries I am going to write from after line number 4 onwards, all must be executed on Athena schema. So that's the reason I am not writing. The same way, if you observe the Java application on the Java side, in the properties file, we just specified that Athena is a database to which I want to connect. That is what is specified under DB URL. So since we are specifying Athena, we don't write the schema name in the query. Okay. So now once I execute line number
So
9,
so is
yeah, go ahead.
so is Athena our database name?
Exactly, that's correct.
So we could create anything.
Yeah, exactly, that's correct. You can create ABC, you can create Adi, anything, ABC, BBC, Ragu, whatever. Okay. And
Okay.
let me take other question. So I was asking like, did that mean there is some other table with name user in other schema? So let me do this. Okay, let me just quickly explain. It's not that user is present in other table or not. The basic scenario is when I say select star from user, there are many schemas. In which schema, see, there might be a chance that the user might be there or user might not be there, but it basically checks or looks for scenarios like in which table, sorry, in which schema you are looking for this table. So if there are multiple users, then it's always preferable to specify the schema name dot user. Hope that clears. Okay, yeah, that's good. So now going back, so once I execute line number 19, it gives me four records. Okay, it gives me four records. So what I will do is I will try to store each record, or means no, maybe let me do one thing. Let me print those records one by one, and then print or then try to store those records. Okay, so for printing the records. So whatever set of statements that we write here is kind of or is pretty much similar to what we do using an iterator. Okay, I hope everyone remembers the concept of an iterator, where we try to store or we try to assign a collection object to an iterator and try to iterate over it or loop over it, right? The same way result set has four records in this current context. Okay, it might have 0 records, it might have 100 records, or any n number of records it might have. In our current scenario we have four records, so we want to loop over the result set and we want to print each value one by one. Now the first scenario everyone needs to understand is there are four records that needs to be printed. Okay, now so the statements that I write is whatever code that I'm writing is not only for four statements, it works for anything. Okay, so while rs dot next, so when you say rs dot next, see here, moves the cursor forward one row from its current position. A result set cursor is initially positioned before the first row, which means basically if you try to understand the concept of rs dot next, it basically checks or gets the first record. Okay, it basically gets the first record for you, and that first record from the, and if you notice when I say the first record, the highlighted part is considered as the first record. Okay, so we will read that first record and we'll print one by one. One by one means in that first record I will print the user ID, then the username, then the user password. Okay, so here what I can do is sys out user ID. Okay, I will write that statements. One second. The next one is username, then user password. Username, user password, then a blank sys out. Okay, so notice here what I'm trying to do to retrieve a column from a record. Okay, so see here now rs result set object dot, if you notice here what is the first value that we try to insert. If you basically understand the create table scenario, I will explain this in a while, but if you understand the scenario, the user ID I declared as int and username means, for now understand that varchar is nothing but a kind of a string where you can store strings here. Okay, varchar. So the first one is int, the next two are strings. So what I do here is I go back to my Eclipse and rs in that record get me the first column dot get, it is of type int, and what is the exact name of the column. The exact name of the column is user underscore id. It is case insensitive. I don't need to write all caps. So since you see here all caps, don't think that you need to write all caps. See here, I will try to write everything as small letters, but the name must exactly match, like all the characters user underscore ID. Now the next one is the first record dot get string, and here I say the string as user underscore name, and the last one is rs dot get string of user underscore password. Okay, so let me execute this or debug this one by one, line by line, and explain what is happening in this scenario. Oh, it has, by the time I kept at breakpoint here, it has already executed that line. So I already got the connection object up and available. So now I'm trying to execute select star from user query. So once I execute line number 19, notice here line number 19 is executed and the result set object has been populated with some data. So let's see if there is, okay, let me do one. I say user 123 or 23. So we all know that the table is not present in our database, or by mistake I wrote users, USERS users. So now let me debug that. So let me execute that statement. So once I execute that statement, it went to an exception block. If you notice the exception, it shows table. See the message here, or you can see it here below. It shows table athena.users does not exist, right? So it clearly shows that, hey, whatever table on which you want to file some queries does not exist. So let me go back and, okay, verify that, rectify that. Okay, the mistake in this problem is like users does not exist. So I go back and modify and I will rerun it. So this is a scenario to just show you that if the table or any column, or if there are any mistakes in the query, it throws back an SQL exception for us. Okay, now this is a valid scenario. I'm going to execute once again. So line number 19 will execute successfully and the object rs will be populated with some data. So now let's see what happens. When I say rs dot next, then the rs cursor will be pointing to the first record in this scenario. Now rs.getInt of user id. Everyone, what is the output when I execute line number 22? 1. Okay, what about others? None. Very good. So the output would be 1. And what is the output for line number 23? Come on team, I'm expecting an answer from everyone. Okay, that's good. So when I say, okay, I'm just reiterating before I show you the output of line number 22. So when I say, or when I execute line number 19, line number 19 will give you 4 records for you. So 1, 2, 3, 4. All these 4 records will be given to you because you are expecting, you are firing select star, means retrieve everything. Now I got everything. The next statement. When I say line number 20 rs.next, then out of all those 4 records, rs, the result set object, will point to the first row, okay, or don't say row, to the first record, okay. So what is rs pointing to after line number 20 team? It is pointing to the first record. Okay, once it is pointing to the first record, all I want to do is print each column. Okay, so I say rs dot in the first record give me the user id, then give me the username, then give me the user password. That is what I'm trying to write at line number 22, 23 and 24. Okay, now if I execute line number 22, it shows the user ID is 1, then it is Raghu, then it is secret. Now I say rs.next. When I say rs.next, And if I execute line number 20, everyone, can you tell me to which record RS result set object would be pointing to? Okay, it's not one Sandeep. Now it will be pointing to the second record. Okay, why? Because we have already executed rs.next once. So now we are executing rs.next for the second time. So since we are executing for the second time, it will point to the second row. Now, if you notice, as and when I execute all the three sysout statements, it prints me this user ID, username, and password. Okay, now once I execute line number 20 once again, it prints all those, means it is pointing to the third record. Now means right now I'm just going ahead and executing all those. So now third record is printed. Now fourth record is printed. Now question to everyone, I'm expecting everyone to answer this. Once I execute line number 20, will there be anything for the result set object to iterate or not? Someone says no. What about others? Okay, very good. As good as that. The answer is no. Why? Because we are just getting or retrieving four records from the database. Since we are retrieving only four records, and since we have already iterated on all the four records, there is nothing else to loop over. So as soon as it executes line number 20, it will exit out of this while loop. You notice now the statement is being closed, everything is being closed. But the simplest scenario here we try to understand is how to retrieve all the records from the database and how to print each and every column in the row. Is that clear? Any doubts, any questions? Okay, very good. Now, the next thing that you need to understand here is anytime you try to print the values, saying that the first thing that I told here is if I'm trying to get this user ID, I need to know the exact name, saying that user underscore ID, and I need to give it, right. The same way, there is one more way to print it. So instead of user name, okay, instead of hard coding the value as user underscore name, or instead of hard coding the column name, what I can do is I can give the position. Okay, so if I say 2, okay, if I say 2, it means that hey, don't don't assume that it is for a user ID with record 2. When I say 2 there, it means any column which is present, means the second column in the output. So what is the second column in the output? It is user. Okay, let me do this. What will be the output when I execute line number 23 for the first time? Someone says secret. What about others? Awesome. Very good. Very good answer. Okay. It's nothing but I hope everyone understood now what I'm trying to explain here. You can also give the position of the column. It's not just you need to hard code the column name. You can give the position of the column also. So when I execute that, see here, username is, don't worry about this part. It's just a hard coded part, but the output here is nothing but secret, which is because of the column 3. Okay, see here, secret again. It only prints, it will never print the password again. So let me do one thing. Let me just say 2, just for your understanding. Okay, yeah, I got some questions here. I'll take those questions. So I've just executed that. So I got the same old output, one Raghu secret and all. Okay, let me, I do have two questions, one from Sai. So he was asking like why we are not saying Athena dot user. Okay, so the first thing here you need to understand here is in the db parameters dot properties file, when I wrote the URL, I explicitly mentioned in the URL that hey, go ahead to the database which is present in the localhost 3306 port and contact Athena database or Athena schema. That is what I have explicitly hard coded. So since I have explicitly hard coded that to Athena database, it always goes and talks to Athena only. So since it is going to Athena database, I need not explicitly hard code here again saying that hey, contact Athena. That's the reason why we explicitly missed it. Okay, that's good. Now let me take another question. So we could just do 1, 2, 3 instead of column names. Yes, Adi, that's correct. You can always do that. So instead of doing all these column names, if you say, if you know the column numbers, then you can always say 1, 2, 3. And if I execute this, it prints the same old output for you. 1 Raghu secret, 2 Naveen top secret, and all those. Okay. Any more questions? Which is recommended? Okay. So to be frank, none of this is recommended actually. Why? Because most of the times we'll be going ahead with the hibernate. Okay, so that's what is recommend, means not always hibernate or ibatis or something, but in a real-time scenario, if the complexity is very simple, if it's a very simple project and all, we go ahead with JDBC, then maybe my preference is to hard code the column name directly. Why? Because in that scenario you will clearly understand like what exactly is the column that you are trying to fetch and print it there. So sometimes you might misjudge, or if a column or if a table has 20, 30 columns in it. Okay, if a table has 20, 30 columns, you cannot always go ahead and count, or you cannot always go ahead and see what is the position of that specific column that you're trying to retrieve, right? So out of those 30 columns, you're retrieving only few of them. It's always better to hard code the column name so that you can get the values for that specific column. Okay. Okay. Now, the next scenario that I'm going to explain here is like how you can store the data coming from the database into a Java object. Okay. So now a very basic question to everyone. How many records are coming from the database in this context? 4. Very good. Now, if I try to correlate the same old concept with Java, how many objects can I create from the output that I'm getting at line number 19? How many objects I will get? Okay, the answer is 4 again. Yes. See, the first record can be considered as an object. So object 1 has user ID as 1, username as Raghu, user password as secret. Object 2 has user ID as 2, the Naveen top secret, like that. So it means I do have 4 records where each record can be considered as an object on the Java side. Is that clear? Okay. So a simple scenario is when you have a user. So let me start coding further, and let me explain you that user table scenario. So the concept that I'm going to explain here is called as a DTO, data transfer object. We will see this in the design patterns. Okay, next. But let me just create a simple class here called as user DTO. DTO stands for, as I said, it is a kind of a design pattern. It stands for data transfer object. But for now, just understand that it is just a simple Java class with getters and setters. And these kind of Java classes are considered as POJO classes. You might have heard of this common term called POJO. P-O-J-O. POJO stands for plain old Java objects. Okay, plain old Java objects in general, like any classes which just have property names and getters and setters, they are considered as POJO classes. Okay, so I say private int user ID, private string username, private string user password, then generate all the getters and setters. So generate getters and setters. So say okay, Control Shift F to format it. Okay, I've created a user class. Now maybe just for your understanding purpose, I'm just trying to reiterate. If I get 4 records from the database, the first record I can map like this. User ID is 1, username as Raghu, user password as secret. So that can be considered as object 1. Object 2 can be user ID 2, username Naveen, user password as top secret. Like that, all the 4 records can be mapped to 4 different objects of this user TTO. Is that clear? Means we'll start coding further, but hope that is clear, right? Okay. Now let me do that stuff here. Uh, Let me delete this. And here, what I do is like I will copy everything into a DTO. Now, see here. Here, this is where you start using the concept of collections that you have understood in core Java concepts. So what I do, I create a list of user DTOs. Okay, list of user DTOs equal to new array list of user DTOs. Control Shift O to import java.util. Okay, java.util.u. Now, see here, I do have a list, which is nothing but, and I'm trying to create an array list. And if there are 4 records, so why I am using uh, array list? So in general, the result set or the output of line number 21, we cannot always predict like how many records are coming. We can get 0 records or 100 records or 1000 records or 1 record or 4 records. So once I create a list object, then I can dynamically increase the size if I want. Means basically how many ever records come, I can use this list object to store it. Okay. Now the next thing here that you need to understand here is I will be creating temporary objects and will be storing data one after the other. Okay, let's see what is meant by one after the other, or how do I do that. Okay, so here uh, user DTO user equal to null, and if you don't understand, please stop me and let me know here. Okay, so here I'm populating that user object, user dot set user ID. So I'm expecting an answer from everyone. What exactly I need to write at line number 31 in the highlighted part at UID in the brackets. So if you understand the question correctly, 0 is the wrong answer. I want to store the, see, I'm just giving you the hint also. I'm giving the hint. I want to store 1 into this user ID. Okay, 4 is wrong. So user dot set, 1 is wrong, username, user dot username is wrong, 1. See, numbers are all wrong. You need to think more to answer this. Okay, okay. Just hold on your thought and just understand the question once again and think before you answer. The first thing, user. Okay, user is an object. it is an empty object right now. So let me do this. My bad. User equal to new user DTO. So you have created a user DTO object, and to user DTO object you want to set ID, name and password. So ID is 1, name is Raghu, password is secret. These are the three values that you want to put here. So what should be replaced with these error scenarios so that the user object will get the data like 1, Raghu and secret. Okay, now my next question. Is there any line in this program which can print Raghu? What is the line number? And what is the exact syntax which will print Raghu for you? Line number 28 was told by someone else, but I need the exact syntax which can print Raghu. rs dot get string of 2. Very good. Now just hold on with that thought. My next question is, at line number 33, I want to assign Raghu to the user object. So what exactly must be replaced with the highlighted part? Very good. rs dot get string of 2. Very good answer. So rs dot get string of 2. Okay. So maybe I will do one thing, team. I will not use 1, 2, 3. I will use the characters. Okay. rs dot get int of user underscore id. Yeah. What's your question, Adit? You can unmute and ask that.
No, never mind. I thought it wasn't going to loop.
I'm sorry. What is that you're trying to say? Is there some question or?
No. I thought it wasn't. I thought it was going to loop and then just give you the same name over and over again. That's what I thought. Never mind.
Okay. But now the most important question to everyone is is this clear? 32, 33 and 34. Okay. Awesome. Very good. Now the last statement that I do here is, once I write all the data into the object, I add that object into the list. lst dot add of user object I do. So let me just debug it once again, one last time, and show you quickly. Now what is list? lst size is 0. User object is null. So I'm just trying to print one Raghu secret here using 27, 28 and 29. But my next criteria is I would like to insert the same old data into the user object. So now if I execute line number 31, the user ID is 0, username null, user password is null again. Well and good. Now see here, user dot set user ID as this user ID I'm doing. Now if I hover this on, the user ID became 1. Username became Raghu. User password is still null. Why? Because I'm yet to execute line number 34. So once I execute line number 34, the user password will be populated to uh, oh, it will not be populated. That I just made a mistake, syntactical mistake. Yeah, thanks for pointing out, Bhargavi. Okay. everyone, let me stop it and debug it once again. So if you notice here, it is 1 and Raghu, and the next thing user password is null. Now, if I go back and execute line number 34, okay, user, it shows 1 Raghu and a secret. Okay, everything is inserted into this user object. Now, what is the next step that I'm doing? Since I've created the first user object, let me store that first user object into a list. What is the size of list? The size of list is 0. Now, once I execute line number 36, the object that I have just created will be added into the list. Okay, so now let me execute line number 36 and go back to LST. So what is the size of LST? LST size is 1 with the first user object. Now the next one. Now the next one is, what is user? User is 1 Raghu secret because of the previous scenario. But now once I execute line number 31, okay, once I execute line number 31, see, everything will be gone. 1 Raghu secret will be gone, and see here, it is 0 null null. Now we will do a fresh insert of the second records into this object. So if you see the user, to Naveen and the top secret, okay, that I am trying to add it to a list. Now the list size is just one element. Once I execute line number 36, the list size becomes 2, which means the first object and the second object. So I'm just completing the execution quickly. So third record is inserted and the fourth record is also inserted, and now if you see the list size is 4. Okay, now let me just write one more statement here. This out, the number of objects created of objects in the list dot size. Okay, so now if I just execute it one last time, it shows the number of user DTO objects in the list are 4. 4 objects are being retrieved and they are being mapped into user objects and are being finally stored into this list. So in general, in real-time scenarios, what happens is, okay, if suppose if the user wants to see all his transactions, okay, a simple scenario that I'm trying to explain, or yeah, all these transactions, then we will come to a class, a Java class, where I will say select star from transaction table or whatever table where the user ID is equal to 123. So it will fetch all the records, all the transactions for the user ID called 123, and we will be giving back this object as output to the caller. Why? Because the caller is not expecting 0, 1 or whatever. He is expecting all the transactions. If there are no transactions, this LST, even if I send, I can go back and check. If the list.size is 0, it means the user does not have any transactions. If the user has some 10 transactions, if I send this LST object back, then I can say that all the transactions, 10 transactions are being sent back to the user. So in real-time scenarios, if you are trying to retrieve multiple records, this is what you return back to the caller. Okay. So that is the reason why, specific reason why I tried to show you this scenario. Why? Because this is what we do, like retrieving the records, trying to store every record or all the records. You will never know if there will be 5, 10, 100 records. All the records into a list and send back the list to the caller so that the caller can process it and display it on the browser or whatever. Okay, clear with this scenario, everyone? Okay, yeah, that's good. So I'm trying to go ahead and explain the next scenario. The next scenario is like the first scenario that we saw is insert. This is read, and the next scenario that we will be looking into is like an update operation. And in this update operation, so what I will do here is till now we try to see a statement object, right? Using at line number 15, I have created a statement object. The next thing that I'm going to explain here is like a prepared statement object, and whatever I'm trying to explain using a prepared statement, the same thing I can do with statement object also. But there is an advantage in doing it with a prepared statement. We will see that. Okay. So first, let's see the implementation of. Yeah. So there is a question like from Adi. So he was asking like, what is the specific reason for creating a class called user DTO class? Okay. Now the answer to that is, let us assume that I want to display all the users who are, means I am an admin, I'm logging into the system. I want to display all the users present in my system so that I can manage them. Now, once I click on a button called fetch all the users, it comes to your class, some different classes. We'll try to understand that in MVC. But ultimately, once you fetch records from the database, we will never ever send the raw data back to the caller. We need to process the data, store it in a Java class. Okay, so DTO stands for data transfer object. So what it does is it collects all the information from the database layer and will send it or give it to the front end layer. Okay, we will understand this in a design pattern concept, but but the basic scenario is like result set has all the records, right? If it has 100 rows, result set has all the 100 rows. If you don't assign all the records to objects, accessing them would be very difficult. It will be literally very difficult using a result set. So what you do, assign each record into an object. So store all the records into all the objects. So if you want to access some 10th object or 20th object, you can always say list dot get of first object or 10th object or 9th object, like that you can say, and you can access that object and you can see what are the values which are present for that object or for that record. Clear? Okay. Yeah, that's good. So now let me do one thing. Let me just copy this read operation and paste it here. I will modify this class itself directly. So instead of read operation, I will say update operation. So in this update operation, what we will do is like we will try to update one of these passwords. Like for user 3, we will try to update his password. Okay. So the next thing that we try to understand using this update operation is like how to use a prepared statement, like line number 15, right? So line number 13, 14, all those things remains the same. I'm not going to explain once again. I make this as prepared statement, control shift O. So java.sql.prepared statement, that is what I try to import. Then prepared statement stmt, I can say stmt or vstmt. Okay. Okay, prepared statement is equal to null. Now connection equal to db dot get connection. Once I'm done with that, line number, excuse me, line number 19, there is a slight change in line number 19. So let me remove line number 19 and rewrite it in a different way. So now I say prepared statement equal to connection dot prepared statement. Okay, here you write an update query. So what is that we want to update? We want to update the password for the user 3, right? So I can simply write the query, means the syntax is so simple that I can just try to understand, or I can just try to explain it in simple English terms. So see here, all I want to do is update. What is that I want to update? I want to update the user table. Okay, update user set. What is that you want to set? Set the user password to something new for the user ID as 3. Okay, so set user underscore password is equal to. Okay, so when you are using a prepared statement, okay, this is where the concept of dynamic inserts come into picture. So when I say dynamic inserts, let me say something like this as user underscore password as. So what is that we want to do? We want to change this password, right? I say small secret already. The old secret. Update user. Set user underscore password as old secret, where the user underscore ID is equal to 3. This is what the query is. So here, whatever we wrote at line number 20 is a valid scenario. Now, let us assume that you want to pass these values, number 3 and old secret, as dynamic values. Why I am saying dynamic values is, see, once you create a template, everyone must be able to use the template, right? So instead of hard coding the values here, if you can say that, hey, anyone can change their password, not only user ID 3, anyone can change their password. If that is the way, if you try to create your queries, then it would be useful for everyone, okay, not only for 3 or some other one. So what I do here is I say it as question mark. Okay, question mark is for inserting a dynamic value. Okay, the question mark is dynamic value. Now what I will do here is I will slightly change the way that I am trying to write here. I'll create a main method here, and this main method I will rename it as some other thing, public void update user data method, and this method is expecting a string password comma int id. Okay, so to this method I can send any password for any user I want to change. Okay, so I wrote two question marks, update user, set user underscore password equal to question mark, where user underscore id equal to question mark. Now see here what exactly the first question mark means. The first question mark is nothing but the password whatever I want to set. So the next statement that I write is prepared statement object dot set string for the first question mark. If I'm trying to set the value for first question mark, I give the value as 1. For that, I want to set it as pwd. So the pwd is nothing but the password that is being given as input to this method. And for what id, prepared statement dot set int. The second is question mark and is for the user 3. Okay, notice here the 1 and the 2 are nothing but for this first question mark and the second question mark. So once everything is done, so the next thing all I do is prepared statement dot execute. That's all. So execute update should be there. Oh, not EQ, sorry, EX, sorry, EXE, execute update. So that execute update. Okay. So, and if you notice here, execute update is returning back something called as an int. It is nothing but it shows the number of records that are being affected by this statement. Okay. So I'm not sure if I explained this or not. Did I explain you difference between DML and DDL statements, all those things in the first class? DML, DDL? I'm not sure. No? Yeah, I'm sorry, I just forgot. After seeing this notes, I just figured out that after seeing this DML and DDL, I realized I will explain it maybe after this. After these examples, I will explain DML, DDL and all. Okay. So line number 30 will be executing that. Now what I do is maybe let me leave all the code as is. Why? Because once I change the data, let me retrieve it again back to you and display it to you. Okay. So line number 17, line number 19 has that method, so I want to call that. So let me make it as a static method. Yeah, line number 29 and 30 you will understand shortly once I start executing this. Update user data. So now for which user you want to change the data? Any guess? For which user you want to update the password? So someone says 3. So let me do one thing. I will not do for 3, rather I will do for user 4. So because of line number 28, 29 and 30, I got the flexibility to change any user's ID and password. Okay. So what I will do at line number 14, I will say the password as, since it is expecting a string, old secret, and I will say, hey, change this for user 4. Okay. So what I am trying to do here is I'm going ahead and changing the password for the user 4. Okay. And maybe if I do have one more scenario where I want to uh, update one more user's password. Okay. I can say update user the password for user 2 here. So what is the existing host? Okay, some password I'm just changing. Now let me execute line number 14 stuff one by one. Okay, so I say debug, understand this scenario. The PWD is old secret and for the user ID is 4. What is the current password for this user 4? The current password for user 4 is no secret. What is that you want to change it to? We want to change it to old secret. Okay. Now if I say execute these things, so what is this statement? The statement, it shows update user set user underscore password equal to, what is that I want to change it to. I did not specify anything. Where user underscore ID equal to, it is not yet specified, right? See, there are two unknown entities in the query. What is the value that you want to update to and for whom you want to update to? Those two are unknown entities here because of two question marks. Now I am filling those two question marks because of line number 30. line number 30, once I execute, the first question mark will be updated to this password. So what is the password? I want to say old secret. So once I execute line number 30 and see the query again, see here, it says like update user, set user password as old secret, where the user ID equal to uh, this is not yet specified. So once I execute line number 31, the highlighted part not specified will be changed to something else. See here, update user, set user password equal to old secret, where user ID equal to 3. How did the old secret and the 3 come into this query even though I wrote question mark and question mark? Because of line number 31, sorry, because of line number 30 and 31. So is that clear to everyone, like what exactly I'm trying to do at 30 and 31? I'm just trying to dynamically fill the input arguments for those question marks. Clear to everyone? So now I execute this, select start from essay. So for the fourth user, we have modified this one. So see here, okay, it still shows no secret. 1 second. For user 3, okay, okay, sorry, my bad. Let me execute this. Let me change. There is something wrong which I did here. At line number 31, I should not hard code. Yeah, that's correct, Padma. Thank you for that. So at 31, I should not hard code 3. Instead of 3, I should pass ID there. Okay. So whatever dynamic values that I pass will be stored there. So see here. But ideally, it has been updated to site secret and everything. It has been updated here. So for line for 4, okay, I'll be replacing with old secret, and for user 2, instead of top secret, I will be displaying with site secret, something like that. Okay, now see here, and let me change for user 3 also if I want. Update user data. So debug it. So now nothing specified. Update user password, nothing specified. Now if I execute these two, the statement that will be executed is user update user password is equal to old secret for user ID 4. Okay, did you notice? For the user 4, it is being updated to old secret. I'm just executing, I'm just doing F8. I'm not doing line by line. And for second user, it will be site secret as and when I execute this. For second user, it is still top secret. Let me execute this. I do F8. Okay. So now, yeah, I'll come to that one. So, okay, I'm just trying to re-explain 1 and 2. What exactly is happening at line number 31? At line number 31, I am trying to replace the first question mark in the query, which is nothing but a dynamic value which it takes. Okay, so 1 means update the first question mark with password field, password data, and 2 means update the second question mark with the ID that I am trying to pass. Okay, let me complete the execution. Should be done. So if I come back and execute this, see here, site secret, new secret, old secret got updated. But are the is your question answered? like what is 1 and 2. Okay, that's good. So is this clear to everyone? Like uh, update statement first scenario and prepared statement the second scenario. How to use a prepared statement to inject dynamic values into queries. Yes, very good. Now
Raghu.
yeah, go ahead.
So why do hey Raghu? Yeah. So like why do we set or create password here instead of like doing it in the database itself?
Okay, so can you be more clear on your question?
Oh, I mean, we could have done this on the database itself, right?
Okay, so okay, so okay, so do you mean to say
Do
like
you
line
understand?
number 30 can be done on the database itself? Okay, changing password you mean. So let's take one scenario. You go to an application called Gmail. So
So I don't know.
Gmail, let us suppose that you forgot your password. So once you forgot your password, you will be given an option like I'm not sure if Gmail has the same option, but let's say that you go to a website called ABC website, you register and you do some functionality, but after some time you forget your password. So once you forget, you click on forgot password, then they will ask your email ID, then they will send a password to your mail. So once you get that password, what you will do? You will take that password, you will log into the system. As and when you log into the system, they will do something like they will show you change password screen. So once you go to the change password screen, you will be prompted to enter the existing password and new password. So once you enter new password, all they do is they take the new password which is entered in the browser and take it to and give it to this current class and will tell, hey, the user has selected this password, so go ahead and do this operation, go ahead and update this, which means the front end browser is sending some password to the Java application. The Java application is taking the password for the specific user and is firing a query at line number 30 saying that this is the new password for the user and going ahead and updating in the database. The front end cannot talk to the database directly. Front end talks to Java application. Java application talks to the database. So I hope that this is the scenario which might explain your question, which might be the answer for your question.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think so. So like the update user data and then you change the password. So those are actually coming from the front end.
Exactly. So anything and everything that we see here in the database, once you integrate with the real-time project. So once we're done with this, I will go ahead and explain this concept, like how to integrate with JSP and servlets project. Then you will see like how you get a data from the browser, give it to Java application, and how Java application takes that data and talks to the actual database either for persisting or like doing create, read, update, delete, any option. Okay, yeah, perfect. So we saw the update operation and the prepared statement operation. Now, instead of a prepared statement, I can as well write a statement object directly. But the basic scenario here is, if suppose if I do the same operation with statement object, it would be something like this. Executing this query, like if suppose if I'm trying to fire this query 100 times, okay, if I'm going to fire this query 100 times, then on the database side, if I'm using a statement object, then for 100 times there will be 100 compilations to check the syntax and 100 executions, which means it will have 200 steps. Now, if in the same scenario, if I use a prepared statement, if I fire the query for 100 times, what happens is only for the first time the query gets compiled. Then For the rest of the 100 times or for the rest of the 99 times, the query gets executed directly without any compilation. So if you are using a prepared statement, you are creating a template which is compiled once and executed for the rest of the time, which means out of the 100 times you are executing, prepared statement will take 101 steps, but statement object will take 200 steps. Is that clear? The main difference between statement and prepared statement. Statement is compiled every time and executed, but prepared statement is compiled only once for the first time the query is being filed and will be executed the rest of every other time. So in general, people will say like statement is a little bit slower and prepared statement is faster when compared to statement object. Okay. Prepare statement and prepared statement. Prepared statement is an interface where you create, or means that is a kind of a statement object interface like prepared statement. But if you see a prepared statement, see here on a connection object, once you have a connection object, you use this prepared statement. So here it prepares a prepared statement object for sending parameterized SQL state. It means that you are making ready or you are preparing a prepared statement. That's what is the meaning of that prepared statement. Clear? Okay. So now since we saw the update also, let me go ahead and quickly explain you the concept of delete. So what I will do is like I will take the same old scenario of an update, same the prepared statement scenario, and I will explain the concept of delete. Okay. So I say delete operation. So I say delete user data is what I just told made, and I don't need a password and all for this one. All I do is like I want to delete some user records. So let's say that I want to delete the user records 4 and 3. Okay. So now the query, instead of update, I will use the same old syntax and everything. But what I will do here is I will just change the query here. Delete. From where do you want to delete? Delete from user table where user underscore ID equal to the dynamic value that you pass. Since you have only one question mark here, so what I do is I will write only one comma the ID that I'm passing. Okay, oh, it is not string, it is an int. Set here. Now delete from user where user underscore ID equal to question mark, which is nothing but first I'm deleting the fourth record, then the third record I'm trying to delete. So if I go ahead and debug it, a simple scenario again, nothing much to explain. It's just the statement that is just modified. Statement means the query. Proceed it. Delete from user where user ID equal to not yet specified. So now you see it again. Delete from user where user underscore ID equal to 4. So it has executed, statement has executed. Now you're trying to retrieve all the records now. So once you retrieve all the records, see here. Did you notice as and when it executed line number 38 after the third record, it just came out. It did not print the fourth record. Why? Because fourth record is deleted. Now I'm deleting the third record also. executed. Is ID, is it matching something? As exactly. What is this ID? ID is nothing but the dynamic value that you are passing to the method at line number 20, which is nothing but 4 and 3, which are coming from line number 14 and 15. Clear, right? So it has printed 1, 2. Now it is trying to execute line number 38. See here what happens. See, there is no record, third record. So it will never go inside. It just came out. So now if I go back and execute the same old query here, did you notice? Okay. So yeah, not a problem, sir. You can maybe check back the video, not a problem. Okay. So did you notice here athena.user or select star from user basically is trying to show only 2 records for us now. Okay. So is the delete operation also clear to everyone? Okay. Yes. Very good. Awesome. So the next thing that I'm going to explain here is like how we can integrate the same old JDBC into our servlets project. Okay. So till date we were looking into some concepts like how to get the data from the browser and give it to a Java application, right? Now see here, very basic things that I'm going to do. So understand very carefully the steps that I'm trying to follow. Hmm. First, let me go to servlets login app. Oh, sorry, I think I've deleted my term. Okay. Okay, not a problem. Maybe what I will do is I will just use this the different Tomcat here. Let me do that. Uh, one second. Let me one second. 1 minute. Okay, let me copy. One second, I'm just looking up a new Tomcat. Uh, so once I attach the Tomcat, the issues are gone. Reattach Tomcat 8. So just notice here, all I do is like I go to my serverless login app, or not this one, like first serverless login app. So in here, okay, we do have something called as the login app or register app or whatever. So in the login app, so what I want to do is once I get the username and password, so all I every time I do is like I go to this specific get password. Okay, I go to this get password method and try to do something like check in this map, temporary map, see if it is valid or not. So right now I'm not going to do this. I will be doing it in a way like I talk to the database and I'll get that stuff now. So what I will do here is this existing project cannot talk to database since it doesn't have a jar associated with it which can help to talk to the database. So the first thing, in a JDBC project, if you see, we tried to add a reference library called MySQL connector which we downloaded the other day, right? So now I'm going to add the same old jar into my project also, to which I want to give the capabilities of the database. So say right click, build path, configure build path, and add an external jar, add an external in the libraries tab. So there can be different tabs here, so you need to go to this libraries tab here, add external jar and point it to a location. See, this is the location where I have the jar file, so I just select the jar file, say open or double click on it. So the jar file is added onto my class path, and maybe for everyone, those of you, just point it to the location where you have the jar file, say apply and OK. Now my current project is also referring to a location which has a jar file which can help me in connecting to the database. Now my existing project has got the capabilities to talk to the database. Now my second step. The second step is, okay, I can talk to the database, but to which database I want to talk to? So for that, what I want to do is I want to copy the same old existing properties file, db parameters.properties. If you see, it shows like these are all the properties that are already pre-configured in a different project, right? So you want to connect to the same database. So let me copy the db parameters.properties file to my class src folder. So I copied it. So now the next thing is, I hope I already told this, you can copy this db parameters.properties either into the package or into the source. If you copy into the package, the difference you need to write in the coding level is here you need to say like, if you just write db parameters, it will check under src folder or in the class path. But if you place it in a package called com.easylearnjava.web or something, here you need to change the way you declare. You need to say com slash easylearnjava slash. So slash is nothing but it is a kind of a folder structure. So what is that com easylearnjava? If you remember, each and every package that we are defining is nothing but a folder structure in the physical location, right? So in the physical location here, the db parameters dot properties, if you are placing it in the package, you need to give the com slash easylearnjava slash web. That is what you need to give. So you can place this anywhere. Either if you want to place it under src, you can place under src, or if you want, you can place inside any package. But all you need to do is you need to give the right path in the resource bundle so that it can go ahead and read that location. So the next thing that I want to do here is I want to go to this DB action from Java class. Okay. So can I do one thing, team? Maybe let me copy the DB connection from Java class as is and paste it here. Okay. I use that method. Then I will use this read operation. Okay. I will use the read operation. And one simple thing that I say here is whenever I try to say like I want to read a specific data from this database and all, you can either use a statement object or a prepared statement object. Anything is good. But the basic scenario is if you can use something called as a prepared statement, it can help you in passing multiple dynamic queries and it would be like much faster. Okay. So what I will do is like I will copy the read operation here. Okay. And I use a DTO. Or for time being, let's not use a user DTO. Okay, now I need to change or tweak my query a little bit. All I need to do is select start from user page. I'm trying to pass a dynamic query here. So what is the query that I need to change here, team? Anyone? Any guess? Can you write the query? Just one last time, anyone? At least the last part is basic query. No one? Okay. Let me change the query here. See, what is that I want to get? Do I need all the records? No, I don't need all the records. I just need one record. What is that one record that I want to get? Okay. So I don't want to use a statement object. I will be using a prepared statement object. Control Shift O to import the prepared statement. So prepared statement equal to null. Then I say connection dot create. So not create, connection dot connection dot prepare statement, and the query that I'm going to write is, see here, I just want a password for a specific user login. So select user underscore password from the user table where user underscore name is nothing but the username that the user has entered in the browser. Okay, so now let me tweak this method, like instead of public static void main, I will say public. It will return back a string get password, and the input is a string uname or a USR name. Okay, anything username. And see here, what I will do here is select where this is the one, and then the prepared statement that I will do here is for the tmt dot set string. The username is nothing but username. Okay, then statement dot execute query. So once you get all the output, all I need to do is I need to return back or send back the password. Okay, so see here what I'm doing. Say return rs dot get string of. I will once I debug, it will be very clear for you. User password. Okay, or else let me store it in a string. String password equal to null, or password, yeah, password equal to null. And here I say password equal to rs dot get string. Here is return password. So now why this is showing an error? Must return a result of type string. Oh, okay. Yeah, I wrote a return statement. Now in the login app, the major difference that I'm going to show here is instead of calling this method, okay, instead of calling this method, I will call a different method in read operation class. Okay, so I will change the read operation to, okay, let me put it as read operation only and go back to login app, comment out this entire method, and here I say read operation ro equal to new read operation ro dot get password. That's all, everything is done. Now let me explain this by debugging. So let me debug it. Hmm, yeah, debug it once again. Debug as debug on server. Okay, now I will say Raghu and secret and I will hit enter. Now the first time the request has come to this two post, means everyone is clear like how it is coming and what exactly is coming. So the username it comes is Raghu and the password it and the user has entered is secret. Now these are the two credentials, line number 18 and 19 are the two credentials that the user has entered in the browser. Now the data has come to the application. Here you need to take this data to the database and check if the data is valid or not. Like is it a valid username and password combination or not. So Okay, something went wrong. Null pointer exception. com.mysql JDBC driver not found. Okay, 1 second. Not sure why it is throwing one last time. Let me execute it once again. Oh, okay, I'm calling this app.validate credentials. So it comes to line number 59. So from line number 59, it calls this get password. So it calls this dbconnection.java and here it fails. Okay. Line number 17, it fails. So it says it cannot find this class. So we have already added this jar, still it cannot find it. Okay, but why? Let me just do project clean. Class not found. Okay, this looks very weird. 1 second, please. Okay, let me let me do one more round of debug once again. Okay, so I say so F5 go into the phone, go into that. Okay, go into that method. So I'm reading the db parameters dot properties. Okay, they get the driver com.mysql dot jdbc dot driver. Well and good. Then the URL. Okay, and the password. So it shows like this driver com.mysql.jdbc.driver. Okay, if I go to my project com.mysql.jdbc Okay, this is the package. In this, the class called driver. Okay, the class is still present, but why it is complaining? Class not found exception. It's weird. So the same old settings are present here also in this DB parameter properties. Hmm, okay, let's go here. Okay, I'm not sure thing why this is causing an issue. It looks very weird actually. Why? Because in our current project, like first servlet's login app, we have already added the referencer library. We have added uh, the properties file under SRC, and we are pointing it to the right location, and we are able to read the parameters also, but still once we get the driver class dot for name, I cannot do a dynamic invocation of this query. It's very very weird. Okay, I'm not sure like why this is causing an issue. But maybe let me go back and cannot forward after response has been committed. Okay, that's a different error. But okay, I'm not sure like why this is happening. Let me go ahead clean my all my projects and just try to load it into at least a JSP project or different one and see like why this is happening. Okay, but I don't see any issue. The scenario looks straightforward, but maybe let me go back and debug, and I will explain this concept in tomorrow's class. Okay, if there are no questions or anything, I will stop the recording. Okay, yeah, I'm just stopping the recording.